Hey guys, Ed from Ed's Model Madness. I've got Ernie Hatmaker here with me as well, but I've also got Pat, and we're doing something a little different today. Hopefully you guys really enjoy what you're fixing to see, but this is a moment in history that we're going to relive. It's 9/11. Pat's a firefighter from New York, and he's going to give us a tour. So without further ado.
So my name is Lieutenant Pat Clancy. I do tours in Manhattan, and that foundation, this foundation, put this together. It's very, very emotional. And we start even in Manhattan. We start at this exhibit the same way. We talk right here about the building. Why did it get built? Well, it got built because David Rockefeller saw New York in decline as a global force, which it was for centuries. Because of the Deepwater Harbor and because of the Hudson River. So it wasn't because of the bedrock until, of course, later on. So Minoru Yamasaki was the architect, and he said, the Port Authority said, build us something big, real big. He was rejected over 50 times. And finally, on the 60th time, they said, okay. And they okayed this on 16 acres of land that they took from mom and pop stores that really didn't contribute to the global commerce. And they came up with two 110-story buildings and 4 other buildings that were near the property or on those 16 acres that ranged approximately from 22 to 66 stories. So they broke ground here in 66, and they completed it in 1970 and 71, both buildings. They had to go down to bedrock. The Hudson River is right next to where they were building, and they had to build a slurry wall. It was like a bathtub in reverse, and these are the examples of it right here. Each building had 99 elevators. 99 elevators in both. It was like almost like a subway. Some were express, some were not, some were stacked on each other. It was amazing. And what it did to the global commerce of New York, it changed things. It was very effective. So, the Empire State Building, by the way, took about 18 months during the Depression, under budget. So now what we do is show you an example of the slurry walls here. These are some personal items here that were found. A lot of paper, a lot of ID tags with people's names on it, and sometimes during the long days there, we would just sometimes look at a name and say, oh, I wonder if they made it out of there today on 9/11. They signed this piece of paper on September 2nd. Wonder where they were. We talk about this video a little bit when we're here, and the people that worked there loved working there. They loved it. It was prestigious. The higher you worked, the more prestigious it was. Of course, on 9/11, in the upper part of the building was not a good place to be. We show you the map of Manhattan is right here on the lower part, where the Dutch settled. Right below Manhattan. This whole thing was woods back then. And here it is being built right here. World Trade Center. The Hudson River. The great harbor is right to the left. There is New Jersey. And we have a little plaque here because they didn't hate us. They didn't start hating us in 2001. They hated us since 1993. You know, even before that, of course, they hated us. These were symbols of capitalism. I happened to work that day where they took a box truck and they put it into the parking level of the North Tower on the B3 level, and they loaded it up with explosives. Matter of fact, Timothy McVeigh used the same idea just a couple of years later in the Oklahoma bomb. So they lit the fuse, these 7 terrorists, and ran. And it blew a hole about 3 stories down and 3 up, and 6 people died. One of the persons was pregnant. So I didn't actually go to it because there's 7-8 million people at the time, and you had to protect the city. We wanted to go, but so we continue the story about 9/11, and the reports from the FBI was there's chatter. They're talking. They're coming back at around 2000. Well, they were here already studying us. I believe I've read somewhere there might have been planning on 12 jets. They studied us. They studied the airlines. They studied the targets. And on 2001, September 11th, there were essentially 4 jets that were going from the east coast of California, loaded with about 10,000 gallons of fuel, highly volatile fuel. And 2 were hijacked at 8 a.m. in the morning in Boston, about 8 a.m., within a minute. They used the Hudson River as a source, but they were trained in America on how to fly the jets. How did that happen? So they used a little razor blade to slice the neck and take over the jet and told the occupants, we are turning around the jet, stay still. So the first hijacked plane hit the Hudson River, and at 8:46 hits the north side of the North Tower. Here's Ellis Island. Here's New Jersey. There's the windows, the restaurant, and Statue of Liberty is in a slope here. Everybody above was murdered that day. Everybody here above, they didn't make it out. The second jet almost flew into Pennsylvania. Why? Because they had to fly all the way around through New Jersey and hit the south side, not this side, the north side, the south side. That was the hijackers' plan. They hit it lower. One stairwell was available for egress. It was probably very difficult to find in the snow, and that was hit at 9:03. I skipped over the third jet. The third jet was delayed. The fourth jet took off from a DC airport, was hijacked shortly after, and hits a symbol of our military might, the Pentagon, at 9:37. The jet I skipped over because a lot of people forget about it. It took off from Newark Airport, which is in the smog over there towards the left. If I'm in Manhattan, I can see the jets take off from Newark Airport. It was delayed by at least a half hour. It took off at 8:42. If it was a little later, they might have seen what happened. So it took off at 8:42. So this happens, this happens, this happens, and now they're talking. They're talking, the people on the plane, getting calls from their loved ones and saying, are you okay? And they said, no, we're being hijacked. So a few guys said, let's break into the cockpit. I mean, there was a movie about this, stories about it. And one guy gets slashed really bad. And they're almost in. They're almost in. And I would imagine that terrorist said, I'll fall, because at 10:03, in the middle of nowhere, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, it slammed into the ground in foreign country.
Let's roll.
5 minutes.
I believe that was the name of the movie, Let's Roll.
Yes. 5 minutes from maybe a symbol of our government, the Capitol building. Maybe somebody says the White House. But I mean, I asked an American Airlines pilot, he had 25 years, how difficult is it to, and he's at that speed. So behind here, before we go back in the second room, talking about 911, behind here, this building got hit second, but it collapsed first. 56 minutes later, at 9:59, it collapsed. This got hit first, and at 10:28, it's down. So now I just gave you a time frame. I didn't realize it until they gave me this book, and I'm looking at the numbers. 8:46, 10:28. I believe that's an hour and 2 minutes, 102 minutes, and it's all gone. I mean, it wasn't over because it was a nightmare that went on for
months, years.
They
Yeah.
were shocked. I asked all the adults, whenever we're doing a tour, we just had a high school group, I say to the younger people, look at us adults when I say, do you remember where you were that day? And like you're doing, shaking your head. So, you know what, I sometimes skip over some of the obvious, we know what these things are. This is basically 9/11 after effects, right about here. I worked that day in '93. In 2001, I was home. I was mowing my grass, and my wife yelled at me to get in here, and I see what everybody saw. This, and I picked up the phone. I called my friend Bobby, and I said, "I'll pick you up in 5 minutes." He said, "All right, I'll be ready." Got into the car and had to go to the firehouse, and I actually wound up on this street right here. I'm most fine with the work in Manhattan I did. This is Liberty Street, and if you go under here, about one more block down, there's the Hudson River. But this is the street I was on 9/11. But I got to this point at 11:30, I was told, because I live 80 miles from this point. I had to go to the firehouse, get my firefighting gear, find a place to park about 6 blocks north of here, West Broadway, and there was almost no block to get down. So we went down Church, went down another block or two, and south of here, and then we just happened to come up right here. I believe it was, I forget the street that came up here, but right here, Liberty Street. And we were just going to search for people. And I remember seeing cops and firemen covered in debris, and dust, and kind of like shocked. Some of the chiefs were trying to coordinate searches. So I searched here. It had to be about 4 or 5 hours, and I found nobody. I didn't even see anybody being rescued, but I know people were rescued that day. And I got a little frustrated. The dust, it was a strange, like powdery dust about below our knees. And I had kind of thought that maybe they were in this dust. And it was kind of sad. The first time I ever saw this was somebody I'll tell you, I usually tell a story about Terry Hatton, a fireman from Brooklyn, who wound up to be a captain in Rescue 1 in Midtown Manhattan. He met this woman, Beth Patron, who worked for Mayor Giuliani. And they fell in love. Giuliani married them.
Cool.
So now he goes that day to work and doesn't come home. And she comes to the site a few days, weeks later. And the quote that made me upset and emotional was, she grabbed the dust on the ground and she said, "He's in the dust." You know, for me, I was just thinking of the dust as, where is people? And she's talking about her husband. The other thing I talk about, some of the, like I said, this is obvious. They always have to, because it's a personal, just some personal story. The story about this Lieutenant Dennis Holberg worked in this very, very great company, Ladder 114 in Brooklyn, Sunset Park. He went. He was told to go. The whole company came back. The whole company. People asked me, was it hard being there? Well, yeah, it was hard, but I didn't lose anything. That's him in the picture on his stomach, searching for his son from another firehouse. That's a group of dads. It was much more than that. One of those dads was searching for 2 sons. So the emotional part of this has been horrible to see the pain of digging for their sons. 30% of all the victims never found. There was a fire truck over there, so we burnt out that window. So I told the guys, let's just search 50 yards, make a big run. If we get a victim, go here. I figured there'd be hundreds. They give it to the ambulance. There was none. After 4 hours, I found nobody. I rescued anybody. I didn't even see anybody rescuing anybody. It was massive. People were rescued. Nowhere near there. I was covered in dirt after a while. The dust was below my knee, and I got kind of pissed off. Where the hell was that? And the old guy next to me said, I said, maybe they're in this dust. No, pieces of them. They have to be here. So, you know, I almost felt like I could hear them. You know, it's kind of weird, like in a movie. They gotta be here somewhere in there. So I climbed and looked in the pockets for 4.5 ounces. That's why I said that. So this picture is 4 months later. It's not that long. I just happened to do it. So when I would go here, go for an 18-hour tour, and I'd get a 745, something would say, go to section BA, 2A, project. Almost all the time was a pile. Because getting this book, the book that I told you about, there's numbers. There's only 174 whole bodies. Do you remember seeing the pictures of people that said, if you find it out there, go look? And I wanted to say, they're not there. They're not coming out. I didn't say it. People asked me, was it hard? It was hard, but I didn't lose the welcome. So that was our mission. I don't normally talk about stuff because you know what this stuff is. I mean, it's our ID. They never found it. There was over 21,000 body parts. So, you know, and sometimes when you found a turnout code, fire code, like you see over there, you knew what you had. And we were called attack. There were 343 firefighters that died that time. Most places don't have half of them. So we were digging these piles. This was our job. I remember finding her. I found a lot of parts, but I found her this one day. I saw a green shoe pop out, and I picked it up. I picked up that green shoe. It was kind of pushing it in a ball, and the guy next to me, we're all watching, and I unfolded the shoe, and the guy next to me goes, "Yup." There were 3, 4 of this lady's bones in my hand in front, and I very reverently covered her back up. I made a talkie call. There was about a half a dozen of these gators came around. They opened up a box. I gently put her in the box, closed the box. The guy marked it with a GPS, and I remember him saying to me, "We found her here." I remember the next day. I'm going to tell you some other quotes. Here's a quote, a story that you see written. I'll expand on the story. Her name was Beth Patron. She worked for Mayor Giuliani as an aide. She was, I believe, in her 30s, and she meets this handsome Capt. Ernie Hatmaker, a Rescue One, very prestigious rescue company. There's 5 in Midtown Manhattan. So Giuliani wound up marrying them. So now they're married. He goes to work. He doesn't come. And the first time I saw that, the first time I saw this quote 4 years ago was she said, I went down there because he didn't come up. She said, I grabbed the dust on the ground and threw a piece of the dust. And that's what I said, but I didn't have any emotional about who or what. And the pain from a wife, that was the upsetting thing. I think a day or so later, that lady I killed, I did find a firefighter buried. I saw many of a casket being poured out the flag train because there was an act of war, they called it. Usually it's for the military. I remember the next day going to a service. I get all the way to the front. I kneel down, and to this day, I touch the person and I say, I'm sorry. This lady started screaming at me, older lady, loud. I didn't even know what she was saying. Another lady runs over to her and says, Grandma, I don't know what she's told her, but I said, I'm kneeling down. I just said, I'm sorry. She goes, Grandma wants a service. She explained something to me. I go, well, Grandma, what happened? And then she yells at me, I would know my effing husband, Jack. Screaming. Like, I was in shock. I don't know what I said. So I left, and an older guy I didn't know, a firefighter, says, hey, did you notice there was no casket there? And I said, no. And he goes, well, you need a body part for the months later, what, the families, what do we do? We can't, don't feel, should we have a service? Should we do this? So sometimes even the body part was found later on the body, and they said, what would you like to do? I'll have another one. Okay. So it was very sad, and like I said, and painful for 30% of everyone that never acted. So I move on this exhibit. You come right over here, everybody, and look at what we just did. Remember I told you Liberty Street? Look at, once we cross the street, right over here is the plaza.
If you want to step up, we'll put the chair back behind you.
Step up where?
Right there is fine.
Once you cross the street, this street, you're on the plaza. And you know what just happened? It's quiet. Nobody smokes cigarettes. Nobody sells hangovers. It's somber and it's beautiful at the same time. The two of the biggest waterfalls on the water is right here. So some people taking selfies, but for the most part, and there could be hundreds, maybe 1,000 people in this plaza. Right there, you're looking at the north footprint of where the North Tower sat. There's two of them. And look how huge it is. Almost an acre big. So there's a lot of symbols created here. And I can talk for like an hour. So if we were standing here, there'd be another one over here somewhere behind us. The water, when you see it, comes over in rivulets. Each one is a person. And the water, they come together, and they wind up going into a granite hole, void. And you stand there, you can't see the bottom of it. They go in there together in perpetuity. The water invites you to touch it. All the names of all the murdered people are right here, right in front of you. And you look over here, and all the names, thick bronze. Some names are shiny, because some people, me too, they touch the water, and they touch it in. Water, life, kind of simple. So the water's warmed up in wintertime, so you can touch it. Some people are on the plaza, and they don't know what this one thing is. They don't know what this is. There could be a white rose in somebody's name, and people don't know what that is. The museum polishes up the bronze, and they put a white rose in anybody's birthday every morning at 6 a.m. It really makes the person and special, and a lot of people didn't even know that. Right below us is the museum. The museum is a museum below us. It starts 70 feet down, and it's underneath the fountains. And down there, I told you about the body parts. There's called a repository. It holds about 8,000 body parts. The family said we don't know. They haven't ID'd them yet. Maybe someday, they're getting better and better, and they'll say, oh. I said that once in another place, so I'm going to go home and do another event. A lady standing here started crying. I said, why? I said, I'm sorry. She goes, no. My brother was in ladder 118. They never found him. And then you just mentioned, Brad, the only place he could be is right there. And I said, you know what? I will bring that up every single time. So this coat was from a firefighter's wife. Now, we all have spare coats. And she said just a few months ago, could you put it here? He was in this company that lost 12 firefighters, one fire company. And they made this for this company, and this company said, put it here. And I tell everybody, touch the steel that held up hundreds, thousands, maybe over the years. Touch it when you walk by it. You might get a feeling of something. So now we talk about the new building. Because, we usually share.
I got to talking to some people over there, I apologize.
No, it's...
We had to go through the rest of the museum with him. I apologize.
He He's a natural teacher. If he was a firefighter, he'd be a high school history teacher. The high school history teachers were like smiling.
I said, I'm going to teach you a little bit of history. And she goes, oh, good, I'm a history teacher. And I said, what's this river? This is the Hudson River. Who was it named after? And none of them got it. I said, what are you doing? So what are you doing? Anyway, I teach them all history, a little bit of math. I ask them how much a ton is. I ask them to convert 40 tons into pounds. Anyway.
Okay,
They come away knowing something.
You're going to take them all with you right now. That's not a word. See, I just brought that up. See, we're from New York. I was born and raised there, grew up, and 3 months ago, my wife and I had. And guess what? Where we decided to settle?
Where?
Tennessee. A good place. You know, you bring up respectful children, you're patriots, and
Talk funny, but
you talk, but I'm starting to listen to you all a little bit more.
Yeah.
When I go back north, I go, how you all doing? They go, you're not saying it right. Well, they're making fun of me.
that's all he's been saying.
Yeah, well, I take baby steps.
That's all he's been saying. It's been it.
But he did say he went down yonder a little more.
So I went out to dinner last night.
Yes, we did.
I went to this place, and there was some bikers sitting at a table, and I got to talking to them, and I said, listen, my buddy here just moved to Tennessee, and he keeps saying he's got a southern accent, but the only thing he knows how to say is y'all. I said, you gotta give me some more. You gotta give me some more. So I wrote down, he gave me a few, so maybe you can, if I don't say it right, correct?
Did I see Yon too? Did I just see that? Uh-huh. Yon too?
So every day he's got to learn a new one.
What was that, Catawampus?
Catawampus.
Catawampus.
Catawampus. Well,
That's
this
cattywampus.
is just a big pile, Catawampus. I don't know. Is that good?
That's decent.
Okay. Hey, I'll take decent over these two northerners, Texan over there.
Actually, he says he moved out here.
That's from New
But see, the bad thing for you guys, that's the new Tennessean accent. That's the bad part.
Sorry.
No, it'll work.
Fixing to go down yonder. Fixing to go down yonder. In the hollow. In the hollow. It's down. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Oh, in so many ways.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it's not such a good. It's not
Really?
Bless your heart. Ernie, I don't know.
Ernie up there, the lady up there, she gave me a water,
Yeah.
and I go, bless your heart, I'm trying. And she goes, you're insulting me. I go, what do you mean,
Let me
insulting
get
you?
you one too.
I go, that's a nice thing. She goes, it could be, but I don't know. And I go, it sounds so nice. Oh, I didn't know it was this intricate.
But the bad thing
Yeah,
about
you're
running
coming
back
for
to New
company,
York,
so
didn't
did you?
if you're around him enough, you're gonna understand what he drinks. We'll finally be able to figure it out. Coffee.
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 We go through the home museum where you can't really understand it. That's why we got Billy in the end. Because when you get in there, you can understand what he's talking about.
Well, bring me in if you need an interpreter, okay?
Yeah. Since you was,
Since she was up,
get me a beer.
yeah.
Ain't nothing good about that. Anybody else if you haven't seen?
You gotta go around the corner,
Around the corner.
down the road and around the corner.
Around the corner.
The creeks don't rise.
Yep.
What's that one?
The creeks don't rise. Because you can't get out. The creeks rise.
Either that or down
Crick's
the
right.
cul-de-sac.
That was one of the ones I remember.
Totally be our issue. What you doing?
You guys, so we're just gonna go to the bookstore and see if we can't find you a book.
Over there.
Man and then the wet hen. And cattywampus. So
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this brilliant teacher.
Oh, thank you.
He's gonna educate you to be Southern.
I tell you what, Mission Barbecue Excellent. Every day at 12 noon, shut the place down. What do they have? Star Spangled Banner, or say that Pledge of Allegiance. Every day. You get a lot of money back. Starting out with 8.
Son is there.
Oh, he's over there? In here?
On the wall.
I thought you were going to say he's in
On the
this.
wall. He's in a memorialized center.
Oh, the Vietnam.
Oh, Iraq.
Oh, someone was killed in Iraq?
That's because of the war here in the past. Yeah, but I want to thank you. This is great. Y'all well?
I've had,
This is good.
I'll be honest with you, I've had other family members come through and said, you know what, my son passed away. He was in Iraq, Afghanistan, and they say this actually kind of makes it.
It's a little bit more in the next
Yeah.
room,
Well,
yes.
this was the reason why it all happened. Yeah, yeah.
I can help you get her up the ramp if you need. But yeah, there's steps from the outside. That's the only way.
Well, we can't do steps. We gotta come back this way.
We'll come back out this side. We'll bring them back. No, we're not going to push them down this path. I know this is a comedy show, but
So where we are, so here we are today. It took 12 years between trying to figure out what to do down there with that site. Now you're dealing with a lot of bureaucracy. You got New York State, you got New York City, you got Port Authority, you own those buildings, you also got federal government, and also trying to take into account the wishes of the families. I have to say, it took a little while to figure out what to do down there, but I have to say they got it right. I feel like they got it right. On that site, down there stands this tower today. Down home Manhattan, down that area stands the site today. This is called Freedom Tower. Freedom Tower is 1,776 feet tall, commemorating our Declaration of Independence and our freedom. So we support what it did. This building also has 8 sides. One side for each of the sides of the 2 towers that came down that day. Put a lot of thought into it. On your actual footprint, Lieutenant Clancy say that each floor in those towers is about the size of a country acre. That's the size. You have these 2 reflection pools on the actual footprints that are down there today. Something soothing about water. The flow of water, it's soothing, it's healing. So they have these 2 reflection pools where the water comes down and hits the flat area and then continues on down, hopefully to eternity. You have the bronze medal with all the names that all the people that perished that day on September 11th. So people go down there, like you mentioned, they go down there on birthdays, they put a white flower, a white rose. Family members go down there and just hang out with the loved one that they lost that day. So it's it's a very solemn place, a very sacred place. Here's the names. This TV screen here continues to run through the names of the people who are working down there. Like you mentioned before, I'm sure. Here's our financial district, Canton Fitzgerald, these financial companies that lost many, many people that day. So if you ever get a chance in your travels, get down to Manhattan, go to the World Trade Center Memorial. There's also a memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, for the people who perished on that plane, and also there's a memorial in Washington for that Pentagon. So, had this all come together, how we here had this 9/11 memorial get into Clarksville, Tennessee, and go someplace in the country. If you go up into this next room, it kind of ties it all together on what happened and what the Stephen Siller family has created and what they do with the funds that they raise from this foundation. So thank you very much for coming. Hey, listen, you guys, thank you for hosting this, right? The arcade, right?
The statue in the center, this is after Stephen Siller, the young man this foundation's named after. That morning he got off duty at 8 a.m. He was going to meet his brothers later today to play golf. As he was driving home, the North Tower had been hit. He turned around, came back to the firehouse, and Squad 1 had already been dispatched. Stephen grabbed his gear, put it in his personal truck. He was driving himself to the towers. When he got to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, that's a tunnel that brings you out of the his family wanted to honor him and honor the other 342 as well. So last Sunday in September of 2002, we had our very first Tunnel to Towers run and simulated what Stephen did. We had about 2,500 people. Last year we had 35,000. We already have a little over 39,000 pre-registered for this year, which will be a week from Sunday. So we'll have over 40,000 people participate this year. Every firefighter that participates runs in full bunker gear. Every branch of our military is represented. And when you come out of the tunnel around the curve, you'll go down about 4 blocks or so. There are 343 firemen holding American flags to honor all 343. Right adjacent to them are probies, which are rookies. They're holding banners with photos of all 343. The only time a probie doesn't hold a photo is if the individual that lost their life that day has a family member presently on the job, and that family member holds that photo. We'll have 52 of these runs this year across the country. This one right here, by far, is the largest and our largest fundraiser. Let's go over to this side. And this is what we actually do with the foundation. This young man right here, let's turn around. There we go.
There we go.
We'll just go right
Just
here.
turn around.
Oops.
I got you.
We're just gonna turn you around.
All right. You good?
This young man right here, his name is Kyle Hockenberry. He was 19 years old. He'd been in Afghanistan for 3 weeks. He stepped on the IED and he lost both legs and his left arm. This photo was taken about an hour right after it happened in the medevac because of his tattoo here. For those I love, I will sacrifice, which is a very powerful statement on the right side of a 19-year-old. He did survive. Shut it over. Take the glare off this. I had to just pull it together. This is what we do as a foundation. We build smart homes for our catastrophically injured servicemen and women. They all operate from an iPad. They can control their heating and air, their lights, appliances, doors, window coverings, entertainment systems, just about the entire home. No matter what their disability, their bathrooms are 100% automated. They do not need any help whatsoever. Their kitchen cabinets will lower down to their level, as well as their cooktops will lower as well. There are 200 names on the list right now to get a home. We dedicated number 85 and 86 on September 11th, and we have 16 under construction right now all over the United States. There's actually one under construction just west of Nashville right now. When their name comes up, they choose where they want the home built, and then they choose a floor plan. We purchase the land, we build the home, we do the dedication ceremony here, we present them the deed. It is theirs, and it costs them absolutely nothing. Not including land, the cheapest home we built to date is just a little over $600,000, and we have 5 that are over $2 million, and they're built for the 5 surviving quadruple amputees. There's one young man here, his name is Doug Vitale. He has a dog that opens and closes all his doors for him, but his iPad is mounted on his wheelchair and he controls it with his eyes. He can look at it and blink, say for the lights, that icon will open up, and in that whatever room he's in, every light will be listed, and right beside of it is a number, and that's how many times he needs to blink to control that one particular light. The quadruple amputee, all they have to do is speak. Their iPads are voice activated. We started building homes for Gold Star families last year. Those are families that have lost loved ones in Iraq and Afghanistan. We built 10 last year, we're building 50 this year. And then any first responder that loses their life in the line of duty, we pay off their mortgage and their bills, and if they have children, we'll start a college fund for them. right here, these 4 columns right here, these are all 343 firemen we lost that day. They saved well over 25,000 people. But this is post 9/11. We lost another one last night. We're up to 203 now. We have almost 1,400 that are diagnosed with some form of cancer, and we have 20 that are in hospice right now. So in the next 10, 12, 15 days, we will add 20 more names to the list. If you were down there on the pile, you will be sick. You will have something. That's a guarantee. But this foundation is really run tightly. And for every donation we get, dollar-wise, 94 cents comes right back out to go to these programs. We don't get paid to do this. We're all volunteers. We volunteer because of all these guys right here. Because they're all heroes, every one of them. But thank you guys. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
And we'll go right back out this way.
So, kind of hard to follow up on that. Anyway, I wanted to thank everybody for watching. I wanted to point a couple things out real quick though. These gentlemen, every time they give a tour, they relive that day. And what they were trying to do is pass on the feelings and the emotions of that day. They're trying to pass that on to the average American that comes through this exhibit, and it just takes a special kind of person to be able to do that. To Pat, to Tom, to Billy, and everybody else that's associated with this foundation, I just want to say I'm amazed. Great job. Hats off. You guys are some wonderful, just absolute amazing people. I also must say, I am in no way associated or affiliated with the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation. My wife and I, we volunteered to work this event, Welcome Home Veteran Celebration in Clarksville, Tennessee, and we were asked to help coordinate the volunteers to manage and help run this exhibit. So I consider myself to be extremely lucky that the opportunity was presented to us that we could meet and work with such great people. So anyway, usually I'm gonna tell you to like my channel, and not this time. It's just that this is a different video. Please, if you get the chance, if you have any desire, go to the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation.org. And you can read up more on their organization, and if you feel so led, please consider making a donation. Honestly, I think that they're doing amazing things for some amazing people, and what better way to support that than to help them in their mission. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you guys watching. I know it was a long video. Anyway, God bless, and see you again soon.